All right, so hello EBC, Cherie here from the Christian Education Ministry. Here to talk about April, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And with me I have Miss Tracy Evanson, who is going to shed some light on what sexual awareness is, and then also talk about her wonderful organization and the work that she does in the community. So thank you, Tracy, for taking time to speak with me and shed some light on such a topic that I know is near and dear to your heart. So kind of tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for this time together. My name is Tracy Evanson, and I am the Executive Director of Healed Women Heal. Healed Women Heal is a nonprofit organization providing domestic violence prevention and education services to our community, in addition to empowerment services, self-advocacy services, and we serve youth, women, and their families. Our mission is to foster self-esteem, confidence, and independence to take control and create healthy relationships. So I'm all about healthy relationships. Yes, I love it.
So how long has your organization been working?
So we were founded in 2013, and I've been doing the work out of my home for the last 9 years, and we opened our doors here, welcome, in 2022. So we have been, we've had our brick and mortar now for about 1.5 years, and we are located downtown Pomona, 436 West 4th Street, Pomona, California, 91766. And this is where we do all of our programming. This is where we have our workshops. Right now, all of our services are in person. It's a very vulnerable time to gather and share information and topics, and this is where we do it.
Yes, and it is wonderful, and I congratulations on opening the doors. I know this has been a dream and a vision of yours for many years. Tracy and I go back, and so to see how it's manifested and how God has just opened doors for you, I'm really excited and can't wait to see all the continued work that you kind of do with the community.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank
you.
So, sexual assault, we know, is a heavy topic, right? And it's an umbrella term, right? There's a lot that kind of falls under that. So can you kind of shed a little light on what sexual assault is for the people?
As Miss Cherie just mentioned, it being an umbrella term. So we focus on domestic violence, but when you look at the intersection and the overlap of domestic violence and sexual assault, it's power and control. So sexual assault awareness, really just bringing awareness to the community about what it means. So any unwanted sexual behavior without the explicit consent from someone, that can range from touching to rape, is sexual assault. And then we don't spend a lot of time in group necessarily talking about sexual assault as much as we do talking about sexual abuse, which is a tactic that abusers use in their power and control. You know, it's just a tactic. So sexual abuse is behaviors used without the consent or will of their partner, that can be coercion, manipulation, intimidation. So certain behaviors around sexual abuse are things like having an affair, talking down about the way you dress, the way you look, being forceful and forcing you to do unwanted acts, pornography, a range of behaviors that are just unwanted, that are really, it's emphasizing the power and control dynamic. So you really have to look at the 3 P's, and it's purpose, pattern, and power. What is the purpose? Are they intending to hurt you? Are they intending to cause harm? Are they intending to do something that you don't want to do? Are they trying to hurt or harm you? Is this a pattern? Is it for the purpose of gaining and maintaining power and control over you? And, with sexual abuse, you can probably just eliminate the 3 P's. If it happens, it happens.
Right.
And it's a problem,
Correct.
but it's something that we talk about in terms of power and control, and just abusive behaviors. So you have like mean people or crotchety people or grouchy people, and then you have abusive people. So when you are trying to determine, is this person just a mean person or are they an abusive person, then look at those 3 P's. What is are they trying to hurt me, or are they just grouchy?
Right.
Are they just like a mean person?
Right.
Or, and is this a pattern, and is it for the purpose of gaining and maintaining power and control? So that is just with behaviors that relate to domestic violence and abusive behaviors, and just the whole imbalance of power.
Love it. Yeah.
But the sexual assault, can be in a relationship, or it can be a stranger. It can be adults. It can be towards minors. But those are going to be those unwanted behaviors that are just without the explicit consent of the individual.
And can we make a clear statement? This is something that can happen to both men and women, and children. Yes.
So the dynamic, it's doesn't discriminate.
Right. Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. So you just answered the next question: who's impacted by this type of violence? And it's just not in inner city violence. It's all socioeconomic.
All over. Yes. It does not discriminate. Anyone can be at risk. And then those impacted as well are the family members of those people who have maybe suffered at the hands of someone who assaulted them sexually, because it changes you. So, you are looking at overcoming something so violent, so aggressive. There's so many the trauma connected to something like that. And that is both sexual assault and sexual abuse. And so, these people have family members, they have friends, they have coworkers. So they still have to navigate life after having endured such a traumatic event. And so you're looking at, the effects of PTSD and depression and thoughts of suicide, just wanting to eliminate the pain and torture that comes as a result of such an aggressive act.
Yeah.
Unwanted.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, for survivors of trauma to that nature, they can get re-traumatized when they tell a trusted person and they don't necessarily believe that they happened, right? Because maybe the assault or the abuse was not physical, but maybe it was emotional, right?
Absolutely. And that's, we have a whole workshop on what not to say. It's called barriers to leaving and what not to say. So that would be in the dynamic of a relationship. But even you have sexual assault that happens with 2 people that are dating. And so just the attack on the victim, which I will always have issues with victim blaming. So I will always have issues with why didn't you anything? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you say stop? Why didn't you get any attack on the victim? We need to not do that.
Is that okay?
It's not okay. It's never okay, because no one is saying, why do you rape? Why do you hit? Why do you abuse? Why do you behave that way? It's always toward the victim, and that's why a lot of people suffer in silence. That's why a lot of people don't report. That's why a lot of people just endure, and then rape isn't always just this violent act that is, it's always a violent act, but it's not always just, like pointing a gun at you or something like that. There's coercion
and stuff like that. Yeah.
There's coercion. There's manipulation. There might be information that the person knows on you, and they're threatening to use this information against you. Some people just give in to things for fear of this person destroying their life in a different way. There's so many layers.
Their reputation, all of those things.
Yeah. So it's very dangerous. It's lifelong, short-term and long-term effects. It's a horrible, act, assault, behavior toward another person. It's just a horrible thing to endure, and even worse to have to overcome.
Right. So along those lines, he talks about our genes on the wall. The victim change.
Yes, our genes on the wall. Victim. So we just talked about this. So our genes on the wall here, that now we are in April. It's a representation of April being Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And in April, the last Wednesday of April, we celebrate what we call Denim Day. And Denim Day was started as a result of an incident, a court hearing that took place in 1992 in Italy, and it was a rape conviction, and it was an 18-year-old woman who was raped, and the conviction was overturned because the judge ruled that her pants were too tight, meaning that she had to help him pull her pants down, implying consent. So the conviction was overturned. And there we have the victim blaming.
And mind you, this is 21st century.
1992, y'all.
Yeah.
1992.
That's crazy.
So the story behind all of that, and this is what I'm saying, people will think that part, well, her pants were tight, so she helped him pull him down. Then she obviously wasn't raped.
Yeah. How scared could she have been?
How scared could she have been?
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, whatever image you have in your head about rape and sexual assault, if you think the way that judge thought in 1992, that if the pants are so tight that she had to help, implying consent, I need that image to be updated. There's the coercion, there's the threatening. You don't know what dialogue and discussion took place behind her playing any role in, let me just get this over with.
Right.
But at the end of the day, she was sexually assaulted in an aggressive way.
Right.
And then put on the stand. Re-traumatized. Was convicted, celebrated, conviction overturned.
So that reminds me when I used to work at the Elder Abuse Forensics Center. And I had a case, mind you, elder abuse, so I'm working with older adults. I had a client who was groped. My client was 83. She was groped by her neighbor. So we went out to assess her, to make sure that, she see what services she needed, did some therapeutic treatment, crisis intervention with her. I went down to the courts with her to file a restraining order against her neighbor. In the court, the judge threw it out and said, well, you couldn't have possibly been assaulted because number one, it took you 6 months to report it. And number two, you're older, so who's really going to do that? And then the abuser tried to throw in, well, I think she has dementia and all these things. So it wasn't just like sexism, it was ageism and all these things. But it got overturned because of her age, and who's gonna do that to an older adult? And so back to your point about it doesn't matter the socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter the gender or the age. And then to be re-traumatized because you're speaking your story, I'm like, how many people are sexually abused and it happened years ago and they don't report it until maybe they see something on the news a couple years later and it's triggering? So to throw something out because they didn't report it right away, I was like, wow. Wow.
First of all, unwanted sexual behavior without the explicit consent.
Right.
That groping was sexual assault. Now, to know that someone might not believe me,
Right.
that's fearful in itself to make a decision to step out and go report it.
Right.
And now you're going to put a time factor on my strength
Right.
and me overcoming fear
Right.
and making a decision to report it and then use that against me. Which is why there's a ton of reasons why victims don't report.
Right.
A ton of reasons. Again, workshop, barriers to leaving and what not to say. There's a ton of there's fear, there's status, shame, guilt, embarrassment, money reasons if this person is connected to, that's your lifeline.
Right.
But the statutes of limitations to report on domestic violence, I believe just got approved from 3 years to 5 years. They're petitioning. There's a bill in motion right now. I want to say it's SB 590 or SB 690. I can't remember. But there's a bill right now trying to extend it to 15 years. And the thing is, it is very, very fearful to stand up to an abuser because of the shame factor, because of all the people saying things, all the reasons why it could knock it out.
Right. Picking your story apart.
Yeah. Why did it take you so long to report it? Who would really do that to you?
Right. Right.
But your jeans were so tight. Why didn't you scream? All of these reasons. I mean, who really is going to go report something knowing that the chances of them being believed could just put them in a whole nother situation? Now they have that whole incident. Talk about the re-traumatizing. There's just layers upon layers of trauma to overcome. So not only the incident, but all the things that came after when you tried to report it, the system.
And report it to people that are supposed to help, right? And for them to turn around and re-victimize you.
So backwards.
Yeah.
One of the things I always say is believe the victim. Believe the victim. So how can I support you? Validate their feelings. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve to be treated that way. Believe their story. Let them know that you believe them.
It's so infuriating.
I
know.
So
we're like,
upset.
ooh, we need a moment.
I do. It's just, and again, us being domestic violence advocates, I'm more in working with people who are in something. So, you know, a lot of times you might think of sexual assault and you think of like a one-time incident. And a lot of times it is. And with the domestic violence piece of it, think of it as sexual abuse is a tactic that the abusers use in that relationship. So now you're talking about something that's reoccurring. So abusers use what works. So if they emotionally abuse, if they call you names, if they yell at you, if they cuss at you, and they get what they want, the power and control is they get what they need and what they want as a result of that tactic, then that's all they have to do.
Right.
You know, but abuse never gets better. It continuously gets worse over time. So when maybe a certain tactic doesn't work anymore, they gotta
Step up the ante.
Yeah. So now maybe I go from, just name calling to some more severe psychological. Maybe then I get physical. No, maybe I gotta.
Yeah. It escalates.
It escalates.
Yeah.
So, but victim blaming is just never okay, and you always want to validate their feelings. You always want to believe them, and you always want to support and ask, how can you best support them? Because, leaving an abusive relationship is very, very hard. So again, there's barriers to leaving. So we safety plan as much as we can.
What does that mean, safety plan?
We want people to be safe. So you are the expert of your life. I don't know the ins and outs of your life. I only know what you share with me. I can validate you. I can tell you that you deserve to be treated a certain kind of way. I can tell you that I'm here to support you. But I don't know everything. Only you do. And you know what's best for you. So some people don't feel safe leaving. If you don't feel safe leaving, I am in no position to say you need to leave. So how do we help you be safe while you're in that? And we assess the situation. And as crazy as it might sound, there was a real true story. Someone's safety plan was to curl up in a ball as tight as possible to minimize injury. She was just not ready.
Yeah.
Leaving, also, we're looking at the high risk of it ending in a lethal way.
Right.
So you have your chances of a death increase in the first 72 hours of leaving. A victim is going to know that more than me.
Right.
About their situation. There's a gun in the house. It's a tactic he uses in his psychological abuse. He waves it around in my face. I'm scared to leave.
Right.
So you just don't know what someone is struggling with. And you have to meet people where they are.
Absolutely.
And when they are ready, all hands on deck.
That's such a trauma-informed answer. I love it.
Which part?
The whole thing.
Yeah.
That's so true. You have to meet them where they are.
have to. Because don't for 1 second minimize the danger that you're putting someone in, or even yourself, in supporting someone.
Right.
So if I'm like, girl, you tripping.
Right.
You
If that was me. If that was me. Yeah.
So now you making me feel real dumb because, like, why can't I be like you? Why can't I be strong like you? But really, now I tried this thing that you say I should do, and
backfires.
I almost get killed.
Yeah.
I mean, your plan you might have to leave the country. We might have to fly you somewhere. But you have to be ready because what happens also is the honeymoon stage.
Part of the cycle.
So people are only sharing that part when they need to share because they're in torment. They're in that blowout stage.
Right.
But then they transition into the honeymoon stage.
They're back in love.
It's all good in that stage.
Yeah. Flowers and the woo.
It's all good in that stage. And as a survivor of abuse, you in that stage, I had 2 babies. So it's good.
Yeah.
You having babies, you taking vacations, you buying property, all the things that make it even harder
to walk away,
to leave.
Yeah.
And so victims of abuse are constantly in a state of being in that honeymoon stage, and you're very hopeful. Now things are back to normal because you've made all these excuses. He was stressed out. He just lost his job. We're having a lot of money problems. We got bills to pay. We got things going on. And it was just, it was a lot.
What I said. I said something.
I shouldn't have done this. Yeah. I shouldn't have done that. If I could just have the dinner ready on time and make sure it's hot, make sure he's fed. Yeah. So victims blame themselves.
Yeah.
But it's not, none of those things cause abuse. Unemployment, stress, whatever. None of that, anger issues, none of that causes abuse. Alcoholism, that's what I meant. Alcoholism, or drinking alcohol, none of it causes abuse. Now, all of those things can
be accompanied with
it. Intensify it. It can make it more intense. But abusers abuse because they're just abusive people. Yeah. They don't have an anger impulse control problem or an anger management problem because they have no problem controlling themselves.
So on-off switch.
It's very intentional. They know it's very strategic. They choose whom to abuse. There's no lack of control, impulse control problem.
Right.
So yeah, it's very hard for people to leave an abusive situation because they weren't abusive in the beginning.
Right.
You fell in love with that person. I mean, a lot of people do, and you're always looking to get back to what it was when you first got together, and unfortunately, it won't happen.
Yeah. Wow. Whew. Okay. Now this question: how can the church? How can the church get involved in helping prevent and also spreading awareness? What could be the church's role in addressing issues like this? Because these people sometimes come to church. A lot of times come to church, and we talk about suffering in silence. And it's like you said, it's not always a sexual relationship or something like that. These dynamics happen in leadership. So tell us a little bit about that.
I would say talk about it. Talk about it. It's not even talked about. Talk about it it has to come from the higher ups.
Mm-hmm.
It has to come from a leadership level. When examples are being shared, when they're trying to bring the word to life,
mm-hmm.
maybe find some examples
Yeah.
in abusive behavior, abusive dynamics, sexual abuse, and let's talk about it. I mean, it's such a taboo thing because, you know, and culturally speaking, there's a lot of us who believe that our business is our business, and I'm sorry, domestic violence is everybody's business. It's not a private matter. So, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean to sound like I'm attacking abusers, because maybe I am, but like, maybe some people don't know that their behavior is abusive. And that's something else that we talk about. We all, every single one of us, have the potential, have the ability to demonstrate abusive behaviors. We all have trauma, and maybe there's some trauma that I am going to, you know, behave this way as a result of being triggered or whatever, but that behavior is abusive toward another person.
It's not excusable.
No.
It doesn't justify,
So, you know, the silent treatment is a form of abuse.
Stonewalling.
Yeah. So, withholding affection. So, if you're doing that because you're mad at your partner, just know that you're being abusive. You're demonstrating abusive behavior. But some people don't know that. They're not aware.
Right.
That is why we have to talk about stuff.
Right.
If we learn stuff from people, and if no one corrected them, and that's where I learned it from, and we just have these cycles of bad behavior.
Yeah.
And truth be told, it's abusive behavior.
Right.
So, but we can't change it if we're not aware of it.
Right.
So let's talk about healthy dynamics. Let's talk about healthy behaviors. Let's talk about, why do you communicate so aggressively? I mean, there's different communication types. There's aggressive, there's assertive, there's passive, there's passive aggressive. The goal is assertive communication. So let's be real and let's be honest, and let's identify that maybe I have unhealthy communication style. How do I be better? Okay. Someone said something. Why did I respond aggressively? Why did I respond defensively? There's a reason. You felt violated. So what was it? I felt disrespected when they yelled at me. I felt unheard when they walked away. I felt, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's communicate.
Yeah.
But that's a skill that has to be developed, because it's easier to cut somebody out, to walk away, to withdraw, to give the silent treatment,
or over spiritualize. Right? When we're going to the church, we I think do that a lot. We just say, oh, they got a spirit, or, you know, just kind of dismissing it, but
no tools.
In a way, and it's harmful. It's harmful because, number one, you are just allowing that behavior to continue, and the person is just spewing on everybody, right? Instead of us sitting down and addressing it and figuring out really what's going on, making a referral, getting that person some help, or just having a conversation. You know, I remember, you know, when my mother was going through her sickness and passing, I was very angry. And it took people that I loved and trusted to tell me, like, hey, you're talking a little aggressive, you know, and I was angry, and I didn't realize that was what was going on. And so being able, like you said, as a church, to have these difficult conversations and to create that safe space for people to heal and grow. Like I said, we don't want to attack those who attack,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have challenges, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a level of accountability
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be had. And if we can't talk about it at home, we can't talk about it at church, where can we talk about it?
We have to talk about it. And we have to have a safe space that is non-judgmental, because just because you're a Christian and you're in the church, ain't nobody arrived. So don't think that, I shouldn't be this way or that way because I've been in the church forever.
Right.
Maybe someone just never had the tools. And because we don't talk about it, we all just say, that's just the way they are. That's just the way I am. No. Now we talk about, now this the accountability piece.
Yeah.
Why are we okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
That we gotta talk about it.
We gotta talk.
I want to talk about it. Yes, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But people have to be willing to have that conversation. That's the part, because you can have people like us. We're very passionate about the work we do, the field that we are in, but topics like this, April is with Sexual Abuse Awareness Month, Child Abuse Awareness Month. Those aren't topics people want to talk about.
No.
But it's topics that are affecting so many.
Yes.
For generations.
Yes.
And at what point do we address the elephant in the room, take the cover off of it, sit down and have a real conversation? And
Now, can we do it now? Can we do it?
Yes.
I did.
Yeah. No, real talk.
Now.
Yeah. Because it's not getting better. It's not getting better. It's actually getting worse and more blatant.
Yeah. I mean, the victim blaming is huge, and we're just eliminating the accountability piece all around. And so, I mean, how can we put it on the victim to start the conversation? They started it, they tried it, and they got shut down. So, we need some men. We need some men.
Secret.
Yeah. We need allies to join forces with to make it where, because it's not a woman problem.
Yeah.
It's a everybody problem.
Yeah.
So we need everybody.
Like you said, in all levels, right? So it's not just the us sheep issue, right?
No.
We need shepherds. We need leaders to be talking about it and calling each other to the table, and bringing us all sitting at the table and having a discussion, and then what an opportunity to really allow God to do some transformative work, right? Not just in that person's heart, but in the church, in the community, when we're able to really shine light. Because there's nothing new under the sun. These things, like you said, there's examples in the Bible where people are assaulted, and those aren't Sunday morning sermons, and that's not on the pastors, but you know what I mean? It's just like nobody wants to talk about these things, and it's uncomfortable to talk about it. But it's happening.
But it's day-to-day life for so many.
Yeah.
It's day-to-day struggles. And people still aren't talking about it. But you have tons of victims having to navigate life after having gone through it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so unfair.
Yeah.
We gotta talk about it.
We gotta talk about it. All right. So, your organization as a resource, can you shed a little bit about, how somebody might get in contact with you, and if you're familiar with any other organizations, local organizations that do similar work?
Yeah, so Project Sister is an organization for sexual assault.
Okay.
House of Ruth is an organization for domestic violence. I refer clients to both of those agencies because both of those agencies really work with people in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We don't normally work with people in crisis.
Okay.
I don't turn anyone away, so I will have a conversation with them just to assess them and see where they're at and see what the need is. But our organization is primarily about transformation. So please visit our website, www.healedwomenheal.org. Just to look at the different programs that are offered. But our programs, our services are transformational. So we have a 12-week program. It's called Love Shouldn't Hurt. And it's not just for people who are in abusive relationships or victims, or it's for everybody. Mm-hmm. This is like, so it's educational, it's skill building, it's loving and affirming yourself more. So our programming is for everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's really just to be a better person in all areas of your life. So our 12-week program called Love Shouldn't Hurt, it focuses on several things, but there's the knowledge and education piece, there's skill building piece, and then there's loving yourself piece. Mm. So we have what is domestic violence, red flags, warning signs, types of violence, cycle of abuse, barriers to leaving and what not to say, relationships on a spectrum, healthy, unhealthy, and abusive. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Has your relationship gone bad and who's impacted? Boundary setting, communication, affirming and loving yourself more, decision making, and week 12 we celebrate and do a recap. But like one of the ones that I love all of them, but we have a workshop that is the affirming and loving yourself more, where we kind of go into identifying your core values. And before we started this offering the program, I had to do the work myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what are my core values? Yeah. And I Googled core values, and like 100 core values come up. Yeah. And so I'll share like 30 values with everybody, and I'll just ask them to grab like 2 that pop out mm-hmm. to them. And a lot of time, people's core values are centered around their current situation. Right. So give yourself permission to change your values. Mm. You know, health and wellness wasn't a core value of mine in my 20s. In my 50s, absolutely, and married to someone who has diabetes, health and wellness is a core value. Yeah. I start my day with 5-mile walk. You know, my life is different. I have core values around situations. People, you know, they just got cheated on. Trust and honesty is their core value, because they just, you know, so really identifying your core values. This way, anytime that there's something that's going against your core values, there's friction there, and you kind of know. That's like your, like, oh, telltale sign. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when you don't know, when you haven't done that work yourself, and you don't know your core values, and someone puts their stuff on you, and you don't even know any better because you haven't identified your own stuff. Right. You know, so it's just, I love it because I've actually become obsessed with getting to know me on a whole nother level, and it's really fun. So you like Tracy? I love Tracy. I love Tracy too. Tracy's great. I love Tracy. I love you too. But you know, when people come in here and they're focused on the other person, it's hard. Yeah. We're not focused on the other person, right? Because you don't have control over the other person. Right. So we're not focused on the other person. We're focused on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we always say, you don't attract that which you want. You attract that which you are. Mm-hmm. So what are you? Who are you becoming? Because that's what you attract. So,
and I love that. That's a great way to empower that person to take their power back.
Yes.
Because if you're right, if you are focused on, and it's hard, it's a process.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Takes time. And you need tools and strategies and
support. You do. But like you say, getting back to who you are, who God created you to be. Because there is sometimes like an identity switch after you experience something traumatic like that. And it's trying to figure out, who am I now?
Who are you?
Yeah.
And your trauma is not just this relationship thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had trauma coming out the womb, right? We've had trauma. There's childhood trauma. There's unresolved trauma. I was raised without a dad. I didn't meet my dad till I was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. I had these abandonment issues. Mm-hmm. I had wound. Mm-hmm. We have trauma, and we move accordingly.
Right.
And it's not for us to meet people to fill those holes. It's the working on yourself. Right. If my trauma translates, I'm not worthy of love. I desire so desperately male approval, male attention, male validation. I have to know my worth.
Right.
And yes, it was my Lord and Savior. It was knowing who I am in Christ. It was knowing that I am worthy. It was knowing that I was created in His image. Mm-hmm. It was knowing who I am, learning who I am, and not making my Father's decision my issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't fill those voids by meeting other people who got their own trauma coming into your life on top of your trauma, and now we just got this.
We all triggering each other.
Yeah. So it's just I just like to be better, and I like to do the work. So if you're in crisis and you come in these doors, sometimes you can't do the work because you're in crisis. That's why I will send people to Project Sister, and I will send people to House of Ruth, because maybe you need to get a restraining order, and you need to get housing, and you need to get some stuff. You're in crisis.
Right. So you need some things to be put in place for you to get stability again.
You need stability.
And once you have that, because it starts with safety is the first thing, right?
Safety is the first thing.
You have to be safe.
Yes.
And then once you're safe, then you can start doing the work and trusting people. Because really, to your point, if they're in crisis, they probably aren't even open to trusting and engaging a new person.
Am I safe? Am I safe? They don't. I'm a stranger.
Yeah.
And they are in the middle of their trauma.
Right.
And situation. So, really, I talk to a lot of people who are very established. They're at the top of the food chain. They high power people, but they're struggling in this area because of trauma that they've experienced, and they go into each relationship on guard, anticipating certain behaviors because they haven't healed.
Kind of self-sabotaging.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I say you don't have to be a victim to go through our classes. You don't even have to be in a relationship to go through our classes. It's even better if you're not.
Right.
And we don't do couples therapy or couples counseling, but we have had couples go through the program together. Because there's some real questions like, well, how do you know what's the difference between conflict and abuse? That's a whole conversation. And it's really a matter of communication. Does the person hear you?
Right.
Do they care enough about you to try?
Right. Or are they just dismissing?
Or are they dismissing everything you're saying?
And not taking accountability for
No
anything.
No accountability.
Yep.
That's just the way I am.
Yeah. I'm sorry you feel like that.
I'm sorry you feel like that.
Yeah.
We have conversations about what an apology is supposed to sound like, what an apology does not sound like. I mean, just skills, skills that you need to be a cool person to hang out with. That's simple. And not somebody that I don't want to hang out with you because you're just not a cool person.
Yeah. That's true though. That's true though. You know, and we all have our own journeys, right?
Yeah.
We all have our own journeys, and sometimes we might be the person that's unhealthy. But again, it goes back to taking accountability and self-awareness.
Own your stuff.
And
own your stuff. If you know you are the unhealthy person, I love an honest person. And I have so many people that come through this program as victims of abuse who turned abusers.
They're like, oh, wait a minute. Like that might be.
So, and I was one of those because you can't, you have to become that to survive in that.
Ooh.
So,
say that again. No, for real, that's a heavy statement.
Right? You have to, you have to become that to survive in that. So I'm not an abusive person, but I spent a lot of time in an abusive situation and was only able to survive by becoming abusive. In that. But that goes back to, I went to my pastor. I'm trying to save this relationship. And he, after a couple of counseling sessions, he said, 2 sick people can cohabitate and 2 healthy people can cohabitate, but 1 sick and 1 healthy cannot.
Do not be unequally yoked.
Yeah. So, you become that because you have to survive.
Yeah.
So, no dig on becoming that. It's just be self-aware.
Yeah.
Be self-aware. You know, they're coming through here like, I was like, I'm not going to be that person anymore. So now they have become that person to all these new relationships. Well, that's not cool.
Right.
So let's not do that. But I'm glad you said that because they're the ones saying, not me.
Right.
They're the ones saying, I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Let's do some work.
Yeah.
Let's do the work.
Yeah. And I love to do the work.
Yes.
So if you want to do the work, come do the work.
Healed women heal.
Yes. Let's do the work together. Your healing is our business. Let's heal together.
Your healing is our business. And God's business.
Yes. Let's heal together.
I love it. And you guys are doing great work.
Thank you.
And just super proud of you of all that is right now. I only know a little bit of the journey, but I know your heart for it. And every time we talk about something like this, you were just oozing with the passion. And I love that. And I love that. And I know those who come in contact with your organization, those who engage you, are going to be blessed by what you and your organization are doing. So.
And I love that you brought it in the church. Because no one was bringing it up.
Yeah. Well, transformative leaders, we be pushing topics, and we're not scared to go there.
No.
Let's talk about it.
Talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
So
thank you guys for watching, and we'll have the information, Healed Women Heal, so you guys can check out Tracy's organization and all the great work that they're doing, and then just be aware, be informed, and thank you.
Yes, and share the information, and don't be afraid to talk about it. Thank you.